If you can conjugate a verb in isolation, but you hesitate when you have to use it in a sentence, you have not failed. But you have found the next thing that you need to be working on, because memorizing verb endings is necessary, but it's simply not enough. You have probably been studying Spanish for a while, and you have been learning your conjugation tables for verbs in the present, in the past, in the future, conditional, regulars, irregulars. You've probably learned those conjugation tables well, and you think that you know the verb. And then the question is, but why do I still find it so hard to get it right? The issue is precisely that knowing the conjugation table does not mean that you know the verb. So in conversation, when you're trying to communicate spontaneously, or when you're trying to write in an exam, especially if it's under pressure, you are not going to communicate by reciting conjugation tables. Your brain actually have to do a very complex process of choosing in order to reach the right form. And I would like to walk you through all the steps of this process. So first of all, you have to retrieve the lexical form to remember which verb that you need to communicate what you want to communicate. Then secondly, you have to choose the right tense to decide what the sentence needs, if it's in the present, if it's in the past, if it's continuous, if it's something that happened in the past and is finished. Next, you need to retrieve the conjugation to remember the specific inflected form. And then finally, you have to use it in a sentence to communicate an idea. Today, I want to show you this difference between knowing a verb and actually activating it in order to communicate effectively and accurately. Knowing your conjugation tables is one thing. The next challenge is deciding which form you actually need. And this is where I want you to start thinking differently. There isn't going to be a magic word that is going to guide you to the correct form. However, there can be several clues in the context that are going to guide you to that correct form. So let me walk you through those clues. Start with time references. Whether what you want to communicate is in the present, en este momento, ahora, hoy, or is it in the past, ayer, el año pasado, hace 5 minutos, or whether it's in the future, mañana por la mañana, el próximo fin de semana, en el futuro. But do not stop there, because you know, especially in the past, an action can be a completed action, something that happened and is finished. Por ejemplo, el sábado pasado fui al cine. But it can also be that you are describing a situation or a setting in the past. Era un día precioso, en el hotel no había piscina. Or is something that happened repeatedly in the past. Cuando era pequeña me gustaba jugar en la calle. Then you can also look at whether you are just talking about one action or several actions and the relationships between those actions, especially when you're talking in the past. Are those actions happening in parallel, or is one action interrupting another? Or am I describing a sequence of events? Por ejemplo, estaba estudiando cuando mi amigo me llamó. Two actions, one was already happening and the other one interrupted it. Finally, you can also think about what you are trying to communicate and the nature of it. Is it something factual? Or is it something more subjective, your own opinion, your own feelings about something? Or is it a hypothesis or a conditional? That can influence the form that you need. As you can see, when you are revising your verbs, so when you're trying to get this right, rather than just memorizing hundreds of rules, start training yourself to read the whole context. So first of all, spot the clues, then choose the tense, then form the verb in your head, and then finally use it. I have put all of this information and some practice tasks in a document that accompanies this video. The aim is not to find the perfect clue, but it is to put all these clues together so that you can make an informed choice. And with practice, this process is going to become more automatic and you're going to start getting it right. Now we take the next step. Do not practice verbs in isolation. Every time you learn a new verb, write it down with the translation and then try to create a sentence, a meaningful sentence. And in particular, try to connect it to the themes that you're already studying as the context for your practice. So for instance, for Identidades, you could write something like, aunque nací en España y me considero española, me identifico también con la cultura británica porque he vivido ahí mucho tiempo. See how I'm mixing tenses here. For Experiencias, el año pasado viajé por toda España y aprendí mucho sobre las diferentes comunidades autónomas. For Ingenio Humano, I could write, la tecnología es positiva, sin embargo, tenemos que admitir que su uso excesivo puede crear adicción. For Organización Social, en mi colegio vamos a organizar varios proyectos de voluntariado a nivel local e internacional. For cómo compartimos el planeta, en el futuro tendremos que reducir nuestros residuos drásticamente si queremos salvar al planeta. Look at what you're doing when you're writing these sentences. You are practicing verbs, you are practicing tenses, but most importantly, you are also creating meaningful language and meaningful thoughts about the topics that you actually need to discuss in Spanish B. So learn your verbs, choose your tenses, create meaning, and connect it to the IB themes that you're studying. So when you learn a new verb, don't just ask, how do I conjugate it? Also ask, what could I say with it about the theme that I'm studying? You will find a list of key verbs and connections to the themes in the document that accompanies this video. You'll find the link in the description. Remember, do not just practice verb conjugations in isolation. Create opportunities to use tenses in meaningful sentences about the themes that you're studying. It is the perfect way to revise those verb conjugations, but also to go through the themes and your own thoughts and reflections. Learn the conjugations, yes, but always practice in context. Create opportunities to retrieve the verbs that you are learning. You may not always get it right, okay? But continued meaningful practice will really support your learning. So this week, just take 5 new verbs and try to make them work across different time frames and connect it to the themes that you're studying. Learn the form, choose the tense, use it to communicate. If you found this video interesting, remember to subscribe to my channel and also download the toolkit that accompanies this video. I'll see you soon.